I know most of you probably know Kim, but Kim Wilson, and she's a very busy lady with all kinds of things, and we really appreciate her willingness to share some of her time today with us.
Okay. Thank you very much, Barb. Thank you, everyone, for having me come today. I know that I've come here before to talk to you about the Grand Avenue Community Outreach, where I volunteer, but another place that's really close to my heart is the Spencer Americans with Disability Councils. And I've been involved in that for over 20 years. I worked at the county for many years as a general relief director and as a mental health administrator. And so when we started this, it had been going since 1992, and I came on board in 1998. So that kind of tells you how long I've been around here. But it just kind of gives us an opportunity to talk a little bit about what's going on for individuals that may have disabilities in our community. I've also brought a couple of our other ADA members, Marty Baumgars and Janae Bover, and they're here to help with the other part of the presentation called Project Alert. So as we go along a little bit further, then we'll be giving more information about that as well. So I think maybe for our practical purposes, we'll just go ahead and leave questions until the end. And so then that way I can get through the presentation and make sure that we cover all the information. So if we could maybe get the lights off here. I think Randy said he was gonna take those first two off, so maybe we can see a little bit better. Great, is that better for everybody to see? Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So the Spencer ADA Council, like I was saying, has been in existence for quite a while. If you remember back in the early 90s, the Americans with Disabilities Act came around, and our own Senator Tom Harkin was one of the champions for that. He wanted to make sure that there was going to be some protections under the law for people that had disabilities, and that's where the legislation came in at the federal level. Well, as things progressed in 1992, there was a need for local types of options for people, and that's where our council came into existence. So we have kind of looked at wanting to make some changes as far as the branding that we want to do, and we've kind of come to the point of saying, maybe we can just have a slogan of just adaptin'. It's kind of clever, isn't it, with an ADA part of it? But what we kind of see is that a lot of times when we as individuals do have needs that require more attention or intentionality, what we try to do is we are adapting to our circumstances. And all of us can do that regardless of the situation. So I'm going to continue here. So as far as what adapting to, when we look at it from the standpoint that there are 42.5 million Americans that have disabilities, there's a lot of us that are affected this way. And when you start looking at youth, 15 and older, you're seeing 25% of those have a disability, 17% of adults, 21 to 64 have a disability, and 50% of adults over age 65 have a disability. It's pretty common, isn't it? So there's a whole lot of people that are adapting. So do you know someone who has a disability? Do you have a disability? Family members, friends, neighbors, kids at school, adults in the community. Could be any of us, can it? We all know someone who may have a need, and they're just like us, aren't they? Sometimes their disabilities are more obvious, and not so much. Sometimes we have disabilities. We all have hopes and dreams. We need love and attention, opportunities to grow and create, enjoy life, and live our lives with purpose. And so regardless of what our condition is, we still have those same common ideas. When a disability happens, we have to adapt to a new normal to move forward, don't we? We have to find a way to make sense of the changes that we're experiencing and find ways to adapt to new situations. We hope people will understand our challenges, don't we? The Spencer ADA Council understands and dedicates its time and effort to support opportunities for persons with disabilities. For over 30 years, this team's been working on a variety of projects to develop disability awareness in our area. special community events and speakers, school visits, poster and essay contests, spearheading the building of an accessible dock at Stolly Park, encouraging city street curb cuts, accessible restrooms at the fair, and local businesses and many more projects. All are part of the Spencer ADA Council mission put into action. And I can say that Janae, who had worked for the city of Spencer and was our secretary for many years, put together this list of all of the different types of projects that the ADA Council has done. And if anybody ever wants to see those, I have limited copies here, but it's been a very productive 30 years of working with individuals and their families. So you can see from the pictures that we have is that there's a variety of different ways in which we serve. And so whether it's that dock or whether it's speakers that come, whether it's the posters that we had when we were trying on a disability at the Spencer Community Theater and making that connection between what it feels like to actually have impairments, and then also working with persons in our council that have disabilities that go to the schools and talk to kids about what it means to have a disability and how to live with one. The mission statement that we have for the ADA Council is through education and advocacy. We take steps to eliminate barriers and build community understanding. So when we work on behalf of persons with disabilities, we want the Spencer ADA Council to function and be identified as a group that advocates for the needs of the disabled. Disability awareness is important and requires intentional thought and action to be relevant and inclusive where support is needed. It makes less stigma and isolation for persons with disabilities when the community is more aware of the accommodations that are needed for full participation in daily living. And that's, when you think about it from the standpoint of being able to get out of a car and being able to go into a store or something like that, having curb cuts. And so it's a little bit easier to get out and get away from the street. It's just little things like that that make a big difference. Also, the aisles in a store. A lot of times, maybe stocking isn't always done conveniently so that people that may have larger appliances like walkers or wheelchairs can get through readily. So that's the kind of thing that we would be talking about. The Spencer ADA Council has and will continue to help planners of community-wide activities take an active and intentional approach to include persons with disabilities as much as possible. We had a situation come up just recently where there was an event and there was a question about the accessibility of restrooms out at the fairgrounds. And it was one of those things where unless you're the person that's affected by it, it's not as easy to remember that there might be a step here or there might be a hard corner there or something like that that makes it very difficult to navigate. So that's the kind of thing that we look at when we just bring attention to some of these special needs. The Spencer ADA Council can and will help build inclusion and awareness in where we live and work together. And so it makes a big difference when you start talking about our current generation of older individuals, middle-aged individuals, younger individuals. We all have different needs, and that's where it gets interesting sometimes when communities are trying to plan. What's going to be the best situation for the most people? So the biggest things that we want to see happen is we want to assure that if people know that there's disabilities, that it's a common occurrence. It's not something that happens randomly. And a lot of times that whole idea of not being alone and not being the only one is a big deal when you start talking about how people can relate and also address their disability. How does our Spencer ADA Council help individuals with a disability or a loved one with a disability identify the strengths? A lot of times, I think we can feel pretty helpless or hopeless if we're disabled, or if we know someone who's disabled. The challenges are very real and they're very difficult. And so when we start looking at ways that we are going to encourage people and support them, a lot of times it's looking at the strengths. And I can say in all the years that I've worked with persons with disabilities, I find them to be some of the strongest people I've ever met. And it's amazing the human spirit that comes out when people have to struggle with challenges and make things work. But the ingenuity and the innovativeness that people need and use, that's something that we need to encourage. Can our community members identify when help is needed and know where to go for assistance? I think, for all the years that I've worked in disability services, a lot of times it isn't relevant until you need it yourself. Then it's sort of like all of a sudden somebody will tell me, well, I never knew you were there when I worked at the office or when I'm, in other capacities. It's like, well, I didn't even know this existed. Well, you're not going to until you need it sometimes. And that's the point of this, is that Spencer ADA Council is available for anybody at any time, whenever you need it. Does our community respond and include persons with disabilities in events and activities? I think we're getting a lot better at that because we are wanting to be more inclusive, but there's always ways for us to be a lot more knowledgeable about the different activities. I can tell you that when I first started in disability services about 40 years ago, that the accommodations and the assistive technology that we had to use back then is light years away from what these kids have now in the way of assistive technology. It's amazing what kinds of things can be done, and relatively simple. I mean, some of our machines and things like that were so involved and so heavy and so inaccessible, but nowadays they're microchips and they're handheld stuff that it's amazing what kinds of things are available, but you just got to find the right places to ask the questions. And the other thing is that when you do know persons with disabilities, whether it's in your neighborhood, your church, at school, or at work, a lot of times it's just being a friend, being kind, standing up for things if you see things that are just out of the ordinary, offering a helping hand. I think all of us know that the world could be a much better place if we're kind. So I just wanted to give you a few minutes of talking a little bit about the ADA Council, and once again reiterate that we are ready and willing to help. So if you have any questions, Tom Rutt gave me his name and his email address. He's our chair, and he can certainly answer any questions, or we do have a Facebook page, and you can go there and you can get information from that or send us a message that way. We also have an affiliation with the City of Spencer, and so sometimes when we look at the City Hall, they might be in a position, if you call there and just say, I need to talk to somebody at Spencer ADA Council, they can usually find us. And so the intention would be that, that's a resource that can also get you a phone call away. Lastly, if you'd like to join our group, we do meet the second Tuesday of each month. We're over at the library in the conference room at about 5:15 in the afternoon for about an hour. So we really would love it if you would join our team. So right now, I'm going to switch gears a little bit because Rebecca Goeken is here, and she's going to talk a little bit about one of our projects that we used. We started in 2006, and I have to give a lot of credit to Treva Johnson. I don't know if you remember Treva, but she worked at the Spencer Hospital for years, and she was in a wheelchair, and she was very, very much an advocate for disabilities. When Hurricane Katrina came then, she was the person that came to the group after being at a symposium in Kansas City, wasn't it? She came to the group and she said, you know what, we need to have some way that persons with disabilities in our community are aware of if they need help, who can help them, and then the helpers need to be aware of the kinds of things that this person needs. So that's where Project Alert came from. So I'm going to have Rebecca come up here, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about that.
this
you guys
one
turn the
works
lights
for
on
you
again,
guys, I got it.
Rick, can you turn the lights on?
I might need you to hold this while I use my hands, though.
Okay,
I'll let you know when. Just stay with me.
Okay.
All right, well, I'm Rebecca Goeken. I feel like I'm really loud. I'm with Clay County General Relief. So when Kim retired, I was hired, and I'm trying to fill her shoes, but they're way too big to fill. So that will probably never happen. So I want to talk a little bit about Project Alert. So maybe some of you remember, it used to look like this. So if any of you have this container in your freezer still, we're gonna throw that out, and we've made an update to that. So now instead of using this container for your medical information, we've updated to this packet, and that's magnetic, so that'll go right on your refrigerator, and that's where emergency responders would look for it. So you'd want to keep it on your refrigerator if possible. I know there are some refrigerator freezers that are not magnetic, and if that's the case, if you can find somewhere as close to that where it's very visible to keep it, that would be helpful. So the way this works is there is a paper that we will have you fill out today and leave with us if you're interested in this, and that information then goes to the comm center, and then the comm center has that on record, and if there is an emergency call to your home, then as the first responders are on their way, they will say, Jane is enrolled with Project Alert, and please look for that packet. And so then they know already that they can find, so let's just say you're home alone at the time, for whatever reason, you're home alone, and maybe you're not responsive and you're not able to give them your medical information. So for example, they could look at this quick and they could say, oh, this individual is diabetic. Now we know how to treat this. So, and then this also has, I'll let you hold that. And this also has emergency contact information. So again, if you're home alone, you're not able to communicate with them for whatever reason, this has your information on it. It has a place at the bottom where you can put any health concerns that you have, diagnoses, and then it also has a place where you can put emergency contact. You can also put on here where your key is. So do you have a key hidden somewhere? The only person who's gonna know is the comm center. So it's safe to put that information on here, and then if your doors are locked, the emergency responders will be able to find that key and get in. Maybe your neighbor has a key, so you could put that on here, and then they'll know, they'll be able to get in. So I encourage you to consider picking up one of these today. I will need you to fill this yellow paper out and leave it, and that way it can go to the comm center. Again, nobody else will have that information, just the comm center. So that is all confidential. So that yellow paper gets filled out today and it gets left here. And then this packet goes on your refrigerator. And then inside of that, if you're a 2-person household, you're gonna pick up an extra envelope and then put your names on each envelope. So Jane goes on one envelope, John goes on the other envelope. And so then you'll each have your own information in this. And so inside this envelope, you will find emergency contact information. This also has a place where you can put any allergies, past medical history, and then emergency contacts. And then if you could please keep your medications updated, that is very helpful also. There's a place on the back where you can put your medications. There's also a note on the front of this that says, please review and update medications the first of each month. So if there's any changes, just check into that, make sure you make those changes. If you go to Avera, you can also just have them print your medications. They are happy to do that for you, just ask. They'll print it and then you can put it in there instead of filling out the back of this. So the other thing that Avera requested that we put in this is, and this is a sample sheet here. So you can take this with you to your next doctor appointment and ask your physician to do this with you. So it's called an Iowa Physician's Orders for Scope of Treatment. So it kind of goes through like if you want CPR, if you want, so you can go through this with your physician and they will fill it out for you and sign it. This has to be done with a physician. So take this, talk to them about it. They can help you with this. They also encourage you to put in there your durable power of attorney for healthcare decisions and a living will. So if you want to keep those in here, tell your family where they're at. They're easy to find. Everybody will know where it's at. So that's something that we encourage as well. That's completely up to you. We for sure need to have this sheet in there for the first responders. So there's also another sheet in here that has information about how to deal with emergencies. So any questions about any of that? So I have plenty of them. I also have information in the back on where you can get more. So if you have a friend or family member that you want to take one for today, that would be fine. You can feel free to take it for neighbors, friends. But also there's a paper in the back that has a phone number on it where you can get more, or just stop in my office. So I'm in the basement of the old courthouse. There's an elevator at the north door. Come to the north door, take the elevator down, and then you'll find the general relief office down there. I have plenty, so feel free to come down and pick up more if you need them, or send your friends down. But again, I have plenty today too, so please consider filling out this yellow sheet, leaving it with us, and then we'll give you a packet to take and put on your refrigerator. So, any questions? All right, thank you.
I have a question. If you want to take one for a neighbor, we don't fill out the yellow form.
So if you want to take one for a neighbor, it'll be in there. So just let your neighbor know that they need to fill it out. There's an address. They can just put a stamp on it and stick it in the mail. Yep, and then that'll go to the comm center. Thank you for asking that question. I did not clarify that. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay.
For that lady.
Oh, Kim. Yes.
What's the vocational rehabilitation with former ADA?
Vocational rehabilitation is a actual state organization, and it comes through the federal government as far as Department of Education. It's not, it may have some of its policies dictated by ADA, but it's not part of ADA. It's separated through the Department of Education.
Second question, is ADA related OSHA regulations?
As far as OSHA is concerned, a lot of times what we look at is that's based for workplace types of situations. They could probably be similar in some of the accessibility standards and accommodations that might be needed, but I think they're separate as far as compliance goes. And ADA is one of those things, we have it noted here, that sometimes people are uncomfortable of talking about ADA compliance. It's sort of like people are going to get in trouble if they haven't done things. But a lot of times ADA is discretionary. It's more designed that people, if they're having accessibility problems or whatever it is, that they try to remedy them on their own or with the help of our council instead of having it get into anything that would be punitive. I think what we look at with ADA a lot of times, especially here in Spencer, is that we're an advisory capacity. And what we try to do is just to make awareness and education a part of our community's understanding of disabilities. And so that way, when it comes to any kind of problems, we're working with individuals to remedy it that way. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
So our schedule coming up, December 4th, Monday, is Tubas, Tuba Christmas, part of Grand Meander OB. They're gonna come here and practice at 5:30. You're welcome to come anytime after that. They'll actually start performing just 6:30 to 7. Vicki Trimer, my co-director, has been very, very busy baking cookies. for the event, but we could still use some more. I think 3 or 4 of you have signed up. So if you did, please have the cookies here by 3 so we can get them trained up. We'll also be serving mulled cider. December 5th, the very next night, at 4:30, we will be departing here on the bus to go look at the Christmas lights. I don't know if any of you saw, I think there was a picture in the paper out at Heartland Kennels, and it's just fabulous. So we're just going to take a little tour, and then we're going to try and spot some homes in town that are especially attractive, and drive by those too as part of our evening. And we'll probably have some hot chocolate to take on the trip that you can slide with Bailey's or not, as you choose. On December 6th, which is of course next Wednesday, we're going to train it up a little bit. We're going to try and keep all of December just kind of silly and fun. And so December 6th, we're going to have trivia. My crazy good friend Bill is going to be our MC for that. And I think Pat has put together about 44 different questions. There will be a winner at the end. Everyone at the table will get a bus ride of their choice of the trips we're going to be taking for free, as well as a little Christmas gift. So we're going to be doing that Wednesday. Yes, Bill? Oh, 55. Oh, I'm sorry. Thought there were only 44. Okay. So you guys be thinking about all your Christmas stuff, so you can answer these trivia questions. So December 19th is another bus ride. It'll be leaving at 12:30. We're going to be going to the Okoboji Classic Cars, which is up at the lakes. Jan told me that he went with family this weekend, and he thought it was just absolutely incredible. I think it should be one of the wonders of the world personally, but the artist up there is just, what he created is absolutely fabulous. So we have 5 seats left for that. So if anyone would still like to go. And then if anyone wants to see the replay of our program today, it will be on December 1st at 8 p.m., the 2nd at 2 p.m., Sunday the 3rd at 7 p.m., and Monday, December 4th at 1 p.m. So I think that's it. The only other thing I have to say is I did promise last Wednesday that we would look a lot more like Christmas this week. So hopefully we didn't disappoint. So thanks you all for being here as always, you guys.
Thank you.